Come on this season preview powered by PointsBet. We are up to the Fremantle Dockers, Das. Oh boy, we are bullish on the Dockers next year.
Freo hero. Jeez, Jeff, we're excited for him. If you're a Freo fan, you guys are going to want to listen. We've got some good little nuggets and some good predictions as well. You guys know where to find us at 100K Sports. Like and subscribe. You guys can find us on Apple, Spotify, and YouTube. Guys, share this as much as you can. It really helps the pod grow. Freo fans, you are in for a good one.
Share it to Shai Bolton if you can, because he is the reason you might make top 4 this year. Up the Dockers.
Up the Dockers.
Welcome back to the 100K season preview podcast powered by PointsBet. Das, we are up to the Fremantle Dockers, the Freo Dockers. How are you, Dove?
Jeff, I'm good. I'm really enjoying doing these. Good to refresh the memory a little bit. Finally get back into football season. I feel when you think about a team at the start, you forget about a few plays, but it's really been nice to look at some of last year's notes, dive into it. We've had a few guests on. We've had Terry from the Blue Abroad. We've had Swoop Luke. We're hoping to get a few more as well that we won't name just in case if they can't make it just yet. But we've got a few good ones coming forward. We didn't have anyone for the Dockers, unfortunately, but it's going to be interesting to have a look at this one, Jeff. Last year, I think I was a bit out on them when we go through their depth and stuff. And then this year, all of a sudden, a few pieces back and guys that shined through last year, I just feel that they're a bit of a better side. Last year, Jeff, they finished 10th, 12, 10 and 1. They won some good games. I feel they started really slow. I reckon you would agree. And they sort of turned it on at the wrong times. You obviously always want to turn it on. But yeah, I just think they didn't get it right at the wrong time of the year. The first question we always kick off with, competition A-graders. Who do you like? Who don't you like? Who do you have for this one?
Das, I'm only going to go one. Just one competition A grader. I'm going to go Caleb Serong. I don't think you can have 3 to 4 competition A graders and miss the 8. And I'm going to get to more on Caleb Serong later because he's a gun, but he's the only one for mine. If we go through our notes here and what we're predicting going into this year and then next year, they might have 5 competition A graders this time next year, but I'm only going to go 1 because you cannot miss the 8 with 4 competition A graders. So just Caleb Serong for me. Das, what about you?
Yeah, Jeff, I love it with Caleb Serong as well. He's got the 2 last All-Australians, 2 last best and fairest at the club. He got 4th in the voting in the Brownlow with 28 votes, which is a lot. Remember, in the early 2000s, if you're getting anywhere near 20, so the Brownlow's almost going into a weird realm where it's either if you're a top liner, you just get all the votes and no one else gets it. But there was whispers towards the back end of last year that he was actually a little bit injured. So we watched him go forward. He kicked, because he's not usually a goal kicker, 2 goals against the Bombers, 3 against Geelong, 2 against the Giants. Then that last game against Port, he kicked 3 points and missed some goals that he should have kicked. So I'm interested to see whether Shai Bolton, when he comes in this year, if it's almost like a swap where they might try and put him forward a little bit more. I'll save him for the next one, but I've got Shai Bolton as a competition A grade. If he's playing his best footy, he's definitely a position A grader. But Jev, I'm so excited to see what they do with him. He was an All-Australian back in 2022. He's a gun. I just think they've been craving for some flair up forward, and he's the perfect player to get on their books. Apparently, they're going to get Cozzy next year, but let's not worry about that. Shai Bolton is going to give him so much flair. So, yeah, as long as he's playing well, Jeff, he's a competition A grade. He can do what not many can. Position A graders, is there anyone that you've got? As we said, the Dockers got a pretty good list.
Yeah, this is why we're all sort of predicting the Freo to go over their line of wins. You've got Andrew Brayshaw and Hayden Young, probably both A-grade mids. You've got Shai Bolton, an A-grade centre forward. You've got Luke Ryan, an A-grade key defender. Sits at the table you talk about with the best the best key defenders in the game. He sits at that table. You've got Josh Treacy, our man, Pizza Hut.
Yes.
He's either already an A-grade key forward or projecting to be by the end of the season. I absolutely love him. I think he's a stud. So maybe he's an absolute position A-grader yet, but I think he's going to be at the end of this year. And then you got Luke Jackson, probably an A-grade ruckman hybrid forward, who when he's at his best is so good. But these guys all played last year apart from Shai Bolton. So if they miss finals again, we have to seriously start having conversations about overrating their talent and that they really aren't that good, because you can't have that many guys that we list and not be as good as, we might think they're going to be this year. Your position A graders, Das?
Yeah, I love it, Jev. And that's why I wanted to put Andrew Brayshaw in the competition A grades, but the fact that you can't have that many. He's a position A grader. He rolls into any side. He still had a really good year. He had some 40 disposal games. He's a tough, hard-nosed Bayside footballer, Jev. He's from the area. All-Australian 2022. Exactly what he said. Luke Ryan, Jev, so he was All-Australian as well. And I find it funny because he's still a big guy, but he plays football so differently. So Jacob Wiedering averages 14 disposals a game. Luke Ryan averages 24 a game. They love his footwork, don't they? They respect him and they know that he's going to make the right decision. So they love to reload through him going backline, sometimes at the expense of just chipping it around a little bit. It's almost like they wait for the right one and then go. But he's a really good ball user. And as I said, so I've moved this guy from notable role players. He's close because I've got Hayden Young. I don't know how many position A graders we can have. He had a very good season, and same thing, probably projected. We know that Kingy loves him. I'm not sure if I'm ready to put him smack bang in the position A graders because I'm not sure if he goes to the Swans if he's starting directly in their midfield, or I don't know if he's going to Brisbane and starting in their midfield. Like I think he's there. I think he's a really good player, but he needs to do it another year for me before I think I solidify him on that list. But I love watching him play.
Yeah, but like guys like Kane Corns will come out and say he thinks Hayden Young's their best. Like he's got that point of difference, that beautiful kick. He was kicking a couple of big goals last year. Like he might be even better than Serong and Brayshaw, but you probably can't prove that yet. But yeah, he's a star. I had Josh Treacy on there. You didn't, and Luke Jackson, you didn't have either, which I don't mind at all.
The only reason why I would put him there is if he plays full-time ruck. If he plays full-time ruck, he's 100%. Like he's an all-Australian caliber ruckman.
Yeah.
I just think they lose him too much in games. Like he's too good of a talent. Now they've got Treacy. A miss should come on as well this year as well. Like don't waste him down there. He needs to be around the ball 80% of the time.
Yep. No, I completely agree.
That's where he does his best work.
Notable role players. You go first on this one.
Yeah, they've got a few little ones, but this one, Jeff, he might be up there with all-Australian notable honours. It's Sam Switowski.
Switter.
14 touches a game is what he averages. Like he'll run, he'll add pressure, he'll just do the team things. He might kick a snag. It's not sexy, Jev, but it's Switowski football. Last year, let me show you. This is a role-playing game. Last year, round 1 against the Lions, 12 touches, 9 tackles, 1 goal, 2. That's Switowski football. Round 2 against North, 8 touches, 9 tackles, and a goal. Round 4 at Gather Round against the Blues, 13 touches, 7 tackles, and a goal. He had 17-1 against the Swans. He had 16-2 against West Coast. It's tackles, it's pressure. That is Switowski football, Jev. I love him. I think he's a role player. He's not a star. He's just Switowski football. So I'm really happy for that notable role player. The magnet's there every week.
Yeah, I love that. I've got written down, so guys like Jordan Clark off the half back line, like he's pushing an A-grade halfbacker.
Agreed.
He's probably just in that role player, that B-plus sort of position guy. Alex Pearce and Brennan Cox, they just need to play on their man and let Luke Ryan dominate and mark everything. I know what you think about Brennan Cox, but he can play. Remember early last year, he had like 20 marks against the Saints, round 1 or something. And then Jeremy Sharp, our man Sam Switowski, the Switter, Mickey Frederick, Bailey Banfield. These are those guys that just run up and down and up and down, and the role players that I absolutely love in football teams. You'll see them on a wing and on a half-forward line, and they just get back and help defend. Then they get forward and they get back and they cover Hayden Young and they cover Serong's ass. So they're premiership players. They're the guys that win premierships. They're premiership players. So, yeah, they've got some notable role players for sure. You?
Yeah, Jeff, well, that's pretty much like he was the main one I want to focus on. They've got other guys around the edges. Like, depends. Like, if Nathan O'Driscoll's going to get a game this year, like he's not going to be a star. He has to be more of a link player. Michael Frederick's going to definitely take a step back with Shai Bolton in the side. So I think guys are going to have a few different roles. But when you look at their list, it's like they've got good players, good talent, and they get to still play enough games at home where that has to become a fortress. Optus has to be like, fuck, we're playing Freo in Freo. So if you have any more?
Nah, that's it for me. We're up to Young Guns. So they drafted Murphy Reid with pick 17 out of our neck of woods, the Sandy Dragons. Tell me about Murphy Reid, Das, if you got anything.
Yeah, Jeff. So he was, I don't think he was is selected as high or like looked after the last 2 years as much as he probably wanted to. But then once he got his shot, like he absolutely dominated. So he averaged 28 touches a game for Sandy Dragons. You got to go watch the tape on him. Hate to like obviously just compare, but almost like, the players that have poise like Scott Pendlebury, that's him. Yep. He's so smart. He always seems to like, he's not cute as in like over the top handballs and like trying to do too much. There was times where he had 2 players on him. He can shimmy, tap the ball along the ground, even handballing along the ground to a teammate coming out the other side. Extremely good finisher. He can go forward and his entry's inside 50. So I don't know when he's going to play, but it looks like he'll be around that half forward line. They might give him a run in the midfield, whether they need, as I said, Brayshaw to go over rest or Serong maybe forward. But it looks like he can hold his own, and they're definitely getting a very, very classy footballer at the Fremantle Dockers. Now, it's a big move to come from Victoria. I think when he got drafted, the dad almost looked like, I'm not saying he hated it, but he's just like, well, looks like we're Freo fans. We're going to be posted up at Crown there every week, so the club better be paying for it. I've got one more, but I'll let you go.
No, you go, because I basically saying when I look at Freo's list, this is why we have such a high expectations on them. They don't have many teenagers in their best 23. It's a lot of guys ready to win. Like Miss and Tracy are 21, 22, 23, whatever they are, and it's just guys that are like in their prime, ready to win. A lot of 22-year-olds, 23-year-olds, couple of old boys. So, yeah, I only really knew Murphy Reid, and then I wouldn't talk about many more young guns for Freo. Who did you have?
There was Cooper Simpson. So my notes from last year. So he got dry. He was pick 35 from Dandenong Stingrays. He had some injuries. He was a potential top 10 pick, and he played a lot of waffle football. Extremely good runner. So I think they're probably going to hope that he might get a bit of a run this year. We'll go into like depth after, but there's some guys like, I know Walters and like depends where Fyfe is, which we'll touch on, but these guys are slowly going to get weeded out, and like you've got to try and get some young kids in there. Cooper Simpson, awesome runner, and then Murphy Reid, same thing. If you got another runner like Michael Frederick go down or Switter, these are the type of guys that they want to be able to get in, and there's no better way to build your engine than playing waffle footy. The grounds are massive. So, yeah, I think hopefully he had a really good year there, and he'll be one that they'll probably play a couple games this year, you'd think.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. Depth, Darcy, you got much on the depth of the Fremantle Dockers?
Yeah, it's weird. So last year, like I questioned their forward line because are they putting it all on a young Jai Miss? And I said that Taberner was getting older, and then Fyfe is gone, Schultz is gone. So I wasn't sure where they were actually going to kick the goals, but now it looks like that their forward line actually has a bit of firepower. So Jai Miss, I'm not sure if you've seen the photos. He looks massive.
That looks photoshopped how big his shoulders look, bro.
Yeah, like there's either sometimes he's either Jai never a miss or Jai another miss. So I hope they worked on his set shot kicking because his routine seemed a bit out. But if he's going, he's got talent. You've got Treacy Jev that I don't think anyone saw Pizza Hut coming to have a season like that. But he's physical. And he absolutely loves to bury blokes. So you got to have a tough-nosed guy. It's like, remember when everyone versus the Swans and Barry Hall was there? Like whether he wasn't going to take the mark, he knew that like a tackle was coming or like physicality. And that's what Tracy gives you. I think Shai Bolton coming there, whether Frederick can go forward, Luke Jackson, Brayshaw, Serong, whether those midfielders can almost emulate what the Swans did. Doesn't matter that they don't have to sit inside the forward line the whole time, but you feel when Goulden, Warner or Heaney at least started to come inside 50, they'd have to draw a defender because they knew that they were dangerous enough to kick a goal. So I think that that's where they might try and mould their game off, but they've actually got a bit of firepower, and I actually don't mind their forward line this year, while last year I thought it was no good. What about you?
Yeah, so I reckon they've got depth in the right place. So a Miss and Tracy in the forward line. Then they've got that Patrick Voss there as well on their list, who is probably isn't in their best 23, but if there's ever a niggle to one of those guys, he can come in, play a role. As I said, Luke Ryan, Alex Pearce, Brendan Cox. Then they've got Brandon Walker back there and Josh Draper, who we saw a bit of last year, who aren't bad players. You got Luke Jackson and Sean Darcy. The only thing I question is, do they have that killer small forward now that Mickey Walters is a bit older? You know, your Bobby Hill, your Papley, your Nick Watson, your Isaac Rankin, and I know Shai Bolton is in. Will that be his role? Because no one likes playing at Optus Stadium more than Shai Bolton does. In round 17 against the Dockers, he had 16 touches, kicked 4 goals, 3. In round 5 in Perth against the Eagles, he kicked 3 goals, 1 and had 21 touches. In round 18 in 2023 against the Eagles, he had 23 touches and 2 goals, 4. And in round 13 in 2023 against the Dockers, he had 33 touches and a goal. So in 4 games in Optus Stadium over the last 2 years, he's averaged 24 touches and 3 goals a game, basically. He absolutely loves playing at Optus and kicking goals. If he's their small forward, oh boy, they're going to be good. And he's the guy, he can go up to a couple of centre bounces, give a couple of tricks, but if he stays around goal a lot, it is going to be dangerous. And then we've also heard Cozzy Pickett to Freo next year is basically a done deal, lock it in stone, apparently, but we can't worry about that now. We're worrying about that next year. But Shai Bolton this year, if that is his role and he's in that 50 at all times, he's going to be a hell of a player going off his Optus Stadium record.
Yeah, I knew he played well there. I didn't know it was that much. He still had some good games from Richmond last year where he didn't have the pieces around the edges. So you just think, like, what a team to go to. If he's happy he's back home, like, hopefully he can turn it on a lot more. Like, he has potential, like top 5 player in the AFL. You're looking at him, you're like, we're in the air, he can take like hangers on anyone. He can finish left foot, right foot. It's like, he just almost seems a player that if he's disengaged, you've lost him. Like, toys out of the cot. So hopefully there's enough there and enough leadership at the club to keep him interested and to keep him focused again, because the sky's the limit for him, honestly.
And you think about it, there was games last year that Richmond wouldn't have Dusty, Lynch and Taranto, and he was basically their number 1 midfielder and number 1 forward. And it's like, it's a lot of pressure for a smaller sort of guy. And so if Freo just make him a specialist his first year, and it's maybe 1 centre bounce a quarter, and then he's always in that 50, and he gets to be the talented person he is, it could be so dangerous. And that gets on to the next one, Dark Horse All-Australian, and there's just going off all those stats and everything I'm saying, I'm taking Shai Bolton at $4. He feels like, what did I write here? Yeah, him plus some natural development from other guys that's going to make him, go into a prelim final, basically. We're going to see him win more games. Like, Shai Bolton is just going to he's going to help get him over the top. So Shai Bolton, $4, Dark Horse All-Australian for me. Who did you have, Das?
Yeah, I talked about him earlier. I actually had him as my Dark Horse All-Australian last year, and I tend to keep doubling up on them from the next year because I'm like, bugger it. I like him. I may as well go again. And there's not too much value on these ones, but Hayden Young can be. If he can keep being the 25 touch player and kick a goal every week, like 22, 25 and 1 is pretty much the most dangerous player in the game. You look at Dusty, you look at Fyfe when he was up and about, you look at what Cripps has been able to do. If Heaney, Dacos, Warner, all these guys, Bontempelli, if you're getting 20 odd touches and you're able to then push or draw a defender down back and then kick 1 or 2 goals and put it on the scoreboard, you're the most dangerous player in football, and every team has a couple of them. He looks like to be the most prominent goal kicker out of probably the midfielders. I think you would agree. So for that reason, $7 on PointsBet, Dark Horse All-Australian. You never know. He might get a J. The fact that Brayshaw's got 1 and Serong's got 2. So they've got a good system as letting their midfielders shine. So why not Hayden Young if he stays fit and healthy?
$7 for Hayden Young is awesome. It's just how many fucking midfielders there are in the comp.
I know.
And how many good ones. But yeah, it's so good. So good. Next one, Das, I'll let you go first with this one. Coach Captain, question mark. You take it how you want. What do you have written down?
Yeah, you sort of forget, 2 years ago, I think when they announced Alex Pearce as the captain, it looked like Brayshaw and Serong were a bit pissed off. But I think it's almost he's now that you look at it, he's almost the perfect person for it. Just let the other boys shine, and you can just be the general down back, and you're not even the number 1 general. That's why I think sometimes if Darcy Moore's captain and all the heat's coming back onto him, he's meant to be the best defender. Luke Ryan's the better defender. You just do the captain role, just do the team role. Justin Longmuir, I just think last year I was so harsh on them. They just had all these tools and they weren't using them. you've added more flair now. You have to be playing that fast game of football. You have to put more score on the board. If they're running from defense, because we know they've got good kicks and they like to be very slow and articulate, if they get it going, they have to go forward. They have to give Jai miss, because he's still not a monster up forward, is he? Unless if he's worked on his strength, you got to kick it out in front. You got to kick it out in front of Treacy, or if not, it has to go out the back or to grass, to Shai Bolton, to Frederick. You have to make it just like, if you're looking at how you want to play for Freo, you just can't be stagnant with it. If you give teams other times to man up, they're just going to jump all over the top of you. You have to play to your strengths. So I just hope that they go forward. I feel they've got all the tools to be a top 4 side this year. And if they don't, it's just going to be a failure, I believe. What about you?
Yeah, so this is where their downfall starts for me. One, we all know there's questions about Justin Longmuir. Like, it's pretty clear he isn't Chris Scott, Sam Mitchell, John Longmire. He isn't even in the same class as these A-level coaches. What I do like, though, is they've stuck with him, given him a list and time to build it without much change. So, like, they're giving him that chance of, like, nah, you got another year. But this is the fucking year. Like, looking at all their lists and stuff, like, this is the year for Justin Longmuir. And two, how is Caleb Serong or Andrew Brayshaw not the captain of this team? I like Alec Pearce, but isn't it inevitable that one of these two are going to be the captains over the next 1, 2, 3 years? Why aren't they the captain already? I question. So for these, so there's reasons I like, and I think Freo are going to be a top 6 team this year, but I think they have a bottom 6 coach captain combo, and I think that's fair to say. Like, you cannot say Justin Longmuir is a top 10 coach, or you can say he's about the 10th best coach, and you cannot say Alex Pearce is the top 10 captain. So I'm sort of leaning bottom 6 coach captain combo, but like, this is the year. It has to change. And it's like, can you see Alex Pearce and Justin Longmuir standing on the podium on the last day of September holding the Premiership Cup? Like, do you see that right now that I say it out loud with confetti all over them? I don't see it. And I think they're going to be so good, but I don't see it. Longmuir and Pearce on the podium. I think it's going to be either Serong or Brayshaw and someone else on there, but who am I to know, Das?
Yeah, it's a weird visual. Like, you almost imagine it's like Serong and Brayshaw both there holding it up, don't you?
Correct.
Like the young guns, but yeah, who knows? Let's hope that he can come back, because he obviously had some injury issues as well. Let's have a quick look at the strength of schedule and let's go through. So Fox Footy, if you guys are new or you're only listening to Fremantle, they come out with their ranked schedule. Obviously, everything always changes. Hawthorn last year would have been an easy side, and then you get halfway through the year and you're like, shit, they're actually a really good side. So judging just off last year's ranking, so number 1's the easiest, 18th the hardest. They've got number 13. So the 13th ranked schedule. So as we go through their games, Jeff, have you had much of a look at their schedule this first half? Is there anything you like, you don't like?
I reckon it's a tough but favourable start, Das. So they go to Geelong round 1. So hard, but they always play well there. Then the Swans come to Perth round 2. You know, if you're going to play the Swans, you want them in Perth. A Derby round 3. The Dogs in Perth round 4. So another hard game, but it's in Perth. Then it's,
Gather round.
Then it's gather round, Richmond gather round. So is that the perfect start to a schedule? A bloody hard game in Geelong that they'll be training all preseason for, into 3 games in Perth in a row, into an easy beat at gather round. There's a world they're 5-0 and we're taking them super, super serious. Last year against the Swans, it was the day Cam McCarthy passed away, and it was the old Heaney and Warner went nuts for a quarter to beat them. But I see a 4-1 start minimum after gather round. Then it legit stays a great schedule. It's Melbourne, it's Adelaide, St Kilda, Collingwood. They can legit be 8-1. Then you keep going. It's just such a good schedule. The way, like, when and where they play teams, it is a great schedule. I can see a world there 8-1. 9-0, 8-1, 7-2. It just works so well for them if they're as good as we're projecting to be. What did you see on their schedule, Das?
Yeah, Jev, and then you go through the middle part. So once we get past that and you get to round 10, so they get Port Adelaide at home, which I think they get it done. I think then they've got the Suns, going to be a bit of a hard team, but those teams are pretty even. Like, you probably say Freo have the better list, but it's the Gold Coast home game. So that's still a pretty good game. And then you've got North Melbourne, Essendon, and then St Kilda. Like, there's what, another 4 and one little stretch for him. And then if we've gone that first 6, so there's 10 games, and then they've still got, 6 games left for the rest of the year where they've only got to get another 3 games. So it looks everything of winning 13 games. If I'm looking at the schedule, like I think it's really good as well. Plus, every team's not perfect at the start of the season. Yeah. So I don't think you mind versing a really good team. So all teams are fit, plus you'd back yourself either way. So, even as Jeff Morgs, we spoke about in one of the earlier ones. Morgs just did a photo about it as well. Freo winning more than 12 and a half games. It's not a prediction, Jeff. It is a spoiler. Like, it's happening. Like, they're over a 12 and a half win side. If you're 13 and a half, that's one you look at, it's a bit of a tough one. Carlton, Collingwood, they're 12 and a half. I feel that they've just given us an extra game, have they not?
Yeah, for sure. I fucking hear.
All right,
I love the start of their schedule, and I've got a bet for you later when we get to best bets about their schedule as well.
So who do you have in the gun?
Caleb Serong does.
Yeah, go.
This is where I feel like I'm the only one in Australia that has the balls to say this, because all I ever hear is praise for this guy. You had him in the top 10 players in the comp dust. Everyone tells me how good he is all the time. Top 3 mid, all Australian lock, all this stuff. In round 20 last year, they beat the West Coast Eagles in the second derby. Caleb Serong had 32 touches, 1 goal, won the Ross Glendenning medal, got perfect 10 coaches' votes, and they were third on the ladder on 50 points, equal with Brisbane on 50 points on the ladder, right? Round 20 last year, they're equal second on the ladder with 50 points. With 4 games to go. They're 1 win away from locking themselves in final. He then has 32 touches in a loss to the Bombers on the G, stiff, the Neil Erasmus game, 22 touches in a loss to the Cats, 24 touches in a loss to the Giants, then in a win and they're in situation in the final round against Port Adelaide, who are locked into second or third on the ladder. They really have nothing to play for because they know where they're in the finals. He has 19 touches and his worst game of the year. So he went from averaging 30 and a half touches a game for the first 20 weeks into averaging 24 touches a game in must-win games. He's Lamar Jackson. He saved his worst performance for the must-win games and the most important games of the year. So I'm going into this year skeptical of Caleb Serong in massive must-win games. So it's fair when we talk about the Swans on grand final day. They've lost 4 in a row. No, we all just judge the Swans now on what happens grand final day, and that is as fair as it comes because they've embarrassed themselves 4 grand finals in a row. It has to be fair on Caleb Serong. He lost 4 must-win games in a row. They missed the finals in a year in unbelievably embarrassingly fashion. It took 52 points to get into the finals. They were on 50 at round 20. They only needed 1 more win. And then it annoys me on PointsBet. Serong is $3 to make All-Australian as a midfielder, and Lachie Neale is paying $5. You can't make the argument that Caleb Serong is a better player than Lachie Neale. One played in 4 must-win finals last year and got better and better and better in all of them. Won the Gary Ayres medal for best finals player and won all 4 must-win games and was the premiership captain and a coin flip away from a Norm Smith medal. Was fucking awesome grand final. He's got 2 Brownlow medals and 4 All-Australians. The other is Caleb Serong. So everything I see with Freo this year, I love their list. I love their schedule. I think they're going to be unbelievably good. But I'm going to judge Caleb Serong in the biggest moments and the absolute must-win games because you can't go from averaging 30 touches to averaging 24 when you only had to win 1 game to play finals and he couldn't get it done, and then he had 19 in his worst game of the season.
I agree, definitely on the. I love. There's always got to be a few players, Jeff, that we want to you want to check in with a microscope, and I love when we're talking about the players. Like, actually, hang on, I'm going to look into Caleb Serong, so I love it. And look, and the argument back to the other one, whether they say he was a little bit injured towards the back end, I guarantee, I don't take anything away from that last game because he missed some shots that he should have. But the only reason with those last few games, it's like he went forward because apparently he couldn't run. He kicked the 2 goals deep against the Bombers, kicked 3 when he had that 22 against Geelong. So maybe they were trying to hide him. But I'm really interested to see how he bounced back as well, Jeff, because he's been a long off season. As you said, they had 1 game to lock it up. So whether it's just him or it's the whole team in the gun, whether we're just looking at the stats or we have to go back and actually say, no, did he put his best foot forward? We're going to be looking at him under a microscope this year. But my player that I'm putting in the gun is Nat Fyfe. I don't want to see
I'll put the
you
bullet
put
in the
your
gun.
hand up consistently just for selection out of integrity. The fact that you've just won 2 Brownlows and you say, nah, we're actually a good team now. I want to be part of the success because I've missed out on finals. If you've got a young guy there like Neil Erasmus, Cooper Simpson, Jev, Murphy Reed, any of these young guys that might be on the boundary, like I don't want you to just put your hand up and just push through and say, no, I'm here just because I'm Nat Fyfe. You looked absolute second rate last year in so many games. I think he maybe like popped up once or twice. The amount of times when he was in the midfield where someone would go one way and as soon as there was a turnover would absolute make grass on them, like within 10 meters. He can't turn anymore. He's not an aerial threat. He's never been a really good possession player, has he? Like, yes, very good contested, but his ball use isn't elite. His set shots were never amazing. He was just tough flying through the air and his pressure was so manic that he was able to get the ball back and an absolute competitive beast. The fact that if he just continues to put his hand up, because he will be a liability for him in a game where it's never been quicker and you have to use your leg speed, I reckon he's lost a step. So he has to have the captaincy or like the leadership to be able to put his hand up and say, no, I actually don't think I'm the best spot for the team because I feel Fremantle, he's been there for what, 12, 13 years, and I feel his era's now done. And yes, you got to move on for the next one. Yeah. So if I see him go down, you've almost got to take him around the back of the shed, Jev.
Yeah, it's not in the gun. It's I'll put the bullet in the gun and just put the bullet in that 5. Das, we have Freo supporters in our DMs all the time that talk about how much Neil Erasmus dominates the waffle and they think he's clearly better than Nat Fyfe, and it's just the ego and the reputation of Nat Fyfe that keeps him in the side. So I hope, I'm the same. I want to see omitted Nat Fyfe in Neil Erasmus if it's time this year. No more just keeping him in the side because he is the 2-time Brownlow medalist. They will want to win the premiership this year. If he is not in your best 23, move on from him. He will be just as part of it, and he's built and he's done everything he can to get him there. He'll be just as much part of it as everyone else, but he isn't in their best side. Unless he's had a huge offseason, but he's just,
You have to be, I'm sorry, but if you look at the best teams, like you have to be able to be Collingwood and you have to just look players in the eye. Taylor Adams. You're not in. The Swans, even though they lost the grand final, you look him in the eye. Like, we got you over. Like, we really want you to be part of this side. Luke Parker's come back. We're like, I'm sorry.
They told Callum Mills was good to go. They told Callum Mills he's not playing. He's the captain of our football club.
Exactly.
They said, you are not playing. So, you got to make these big calls.
The best teams do it.
Yeah,
the best teams do it consistently. So, I think we know where we sit on the line, but the floor of wins when we're looking at that schedule, they got
best bet first, Das. Best bet on the thing. Das, Freo to win the. Oh, actually, we'll go through their odds just quickly.
Yeah.
Because I've got one here. So let me just get to Freo. Premiership, $11. To make the grand final, $7. Minor premiership, $15. To make the top 4, $4. To make the top 8, $1.65. Least wins, 251 to 1. That's not happening. Das, to win the minor premiership at 15 to 1 is such a good bet, I reckon. With their schedule, if they're going to be as good as we think they are, 15 to 1. To make the top 4 at $4 to 1, 4 to 1 is awesome bet. And usually I don't like teams who miss the 8 to fly up into the top 4, but I love their schedule too much. But Darth, this is the one. Last team to go undefeated at 15 to 1. They're 10th on the list of last teams to go undefeated. If you think they can beat Geelong in Geelong round 1, which, as I said, they've spent their whole preseason training for that game, whereas Geelong have to go to Brisbane on Thursday night opening round, and then they come back to Geelong. Opening round before, their second game. Anyway, what I just said, there's a world where Freo are legit 9-0. If you think they can beat Geelong in Geelong, where they always play well against the Cats, round 1, they then get the Swans in Perth, which, isn't easy, but it's a home game. You think they're going to win, then it's more Perth games. It's West Coast. It's the Dogs in Perth. It's Richmond at Gather Round. It's these teams that I favour them against. 15 to 1 for Freo to be the last team undefeated, Das, is my favourite bet with the Dockers.
Yeah, Jev, I love it. Like, especially for value. Like, I think some of these markets, like all Australians, have been like inflated prices. Like we mentioned on the card one, like Tom DeConing's $5 for All Australian. I'm like, he shouldn't be $5.
Yes.
Like he's in front of Gorn. But when you look at the minor premiership, they're a team that screams out to me that like that they can just win 17 games. Like when we look at the last 4 years of Port Adelaide, they were 17 wins, 16 wins, I think 10 wins, and then 17 before that. Like I look at Fremantle and think that their list is better than theirs, like from last year.
Sure.
So I absolutely love that. I think like as a value one to make the top four, I love that at $4. I thought that would have been like $2.80, $3. Obviously, probably not the biggest. That's the thing. You don't get the big Victorian tax, I feel, with these. Like Carlton, Collingwood's, like Essendon, like if they're going well, they always get smashed in. The Fremantle, there mustn't be too many people betting on them. So at $4, Jeff, I just think that's the best bet on the board. That's the one that I'd look at and be like, yeah, like I'd be happy to put some of my hard-earned dollars on that.
For sure. So on our points bet account, Das, I've already taken them to be last team undefeated. I will take them to win the minor premiership at 15-1, and we will take them to make the top four at 4-1. This is the most excited I've actually been about best bets. Like we just were on with Terry from Carlton, and I didn't have a best bet for Carlton because I didn't like the odds for the overs, and then I didn't even like the odds for them to miss the 8. These are the value I absolutely love. So their floor of wins, Das, what have you got their floor of wins at?
Oh, like if everything goes bad and for some reason there's injuries, like it can't be any worse than last year. So 12 wins. Like, I mean, like absolute rock bottom Fremantle, like anchor at the bottom of the ship, at the bottom of the ocean, like 12 wins. And that would be an extremely disappointing year for the Dockers, I feel. What about you?
Yeah, so they won 12 games last year with a draw. I actually think their floor is 12 wins. Like with their schedule, their list, and the addition of Shai Bolton, 12 is the floor, I reckon, this year. So I agree with you. And then what have you got their ceiling?
I've got them at 16, 17 wins. They're absolutely, Jev, a top 4 side. They've got the list for it. I think they just ran into so many speed humps last year. I think they're going to iron out the kinks. They've gotten better. They look like they're a lot healthier. Top 4 side, I think like it's primed to be that. Potentially after, Jev, I didn't even think about minor premiership, but after looking at that odd, you've almost convinced me like I would put some money on that. You just see at the end of the year, it's always the interstate. There's always 3 or 4 interstate sides that are always in the top 6 and they're always dominant. So Brisbane, whether the Giants are there again, is it Sydney, Fremantle, there's always a team that pops. I think Port Adelaide are coming down. So yeah, I think 16, 17 wins, Jev, absolutely they can. If Port Adelaide can do it, they can do it. What about you?
Yeah, I wrote their ceiling is fucking anything. Like dead set 18-5 for the season, 5 losses. Like if they're as good as we're projecting them to be, they can be anything. Minor premiership, they win all 11 games at Optus Stadium. They get a couple of easy kills like Richmond at Gather Round and stuff, whereas they had the heartbreaker against the Blues last year. Their ceiling is so high. There's a world they're 9-0, and I know you can convince yourself they're going to lose games in that first 9, but I can see them being 9-0 to start the season, and that can be absolutely anything. So going into that, their over-under is 12.5. We've said it like 9 times. It is one of the best bets on the absolute whole AFL season. Freo over 12.5, Das. As you said, it is not a prediction. It is a spoiler.
That's it, Jeff. It's not a prediction. It's a spoiler. We went through all the early ones. As soon as the lines came out, you look at Adelaide, you look at Brisbane 14, Carlton, Collingwood, 13.5, Bombers at 9. Oh, that's fun. I'll take the under. And then you just look at you go, hang on, what's this? 12.5. That seems wrong. So 12.5 wins, Jev, without even looking like you just think Shai Bolton, they dogged the back end of the year. Everyone's going to be hungry. There's so many players I always talk about at Brayshaw, Serong. Like they put so much pride in. They want to be the first ever players to win a premiership at Fremantle, to hold the cup. And they've had countless meetings on it and they all believe in it. So you think that they're all bought in, Jev. 12.5 wins. This seems like the best bet of the season. It's not a prediction. It is a spoiler. I'm sorry. They're winning over 12.5 games.
And if you break it down to its simplest form, as we said before, they won 12 games last year with a draw. If you don't think Shai Bolton is worth one more win, which he is with his fucking Optus Stadium stats where he averages 24 touches and 3 goals, he is worth 1 to 2 wins at that. If they're just as good as they were last year, adding Shai Bolton, 12.5, take the over, ask Nan for some super and go, it's on Freo's over 12.5. I reckon we're going to have the whole of Australia riding this one with us, Das, because you and me are going to ride it hard.
100%. Like, don't necessarily have to be a fan, like a super fan of them. When I play them, I hate playing fucking Fremantle, but it's usually a good game. But you got to respect the team. Like, we're betting on the team. Like, they're good. I think they're set up. It's an absolute alley-oop, I think, Jev. So that is the Fremantle Dockers.
So a multi, if we were to have a multi on Freo this year, we're building it around Freo to make the top 4.
Yep. And then why don't we go Shai Bolton All-Australian?
Love it. And then is it someone top 3 Brownlow? Is it, or has they got too many guns, or is it them to make the grand final?
Can we go maybe like, are you keen on like a Serong Treacy together for 60 goals?
Serong and Treacy.
Oh no! Sorry.
I miss
and Treacy.
I reckon you can push 70. They should both kick 35, shouldn't they? I can see Treacy kicking 40 this year.
I hope so, but I'm just trying to get a bit. All right, let's go both of them for 70.
Yeah, so
Combined.
Treacy and a miss combined for 70, Freo top 4, and Shai Bolton All-Australian. That is an awesome multi. If you and me would be betting on that, we don't even need to be a Freo supporter to be betting on that. They should be good. And even we can just, to top it even more, we can just add the over 12.5 to us, because that is gobbling up cash.
It's not a prediction, it's a spoiler.
Hey, good pod, Das. The Dockers, we are high on the Dockers this year. The only one I just want to ask quickly, Sean Darcy, could they give his contract away? Kane Corns is all over it. Will he be in their best side? Apparently he's overseas right now because he's injured. He's too fat. What are your thoughts on Sean Darcy?
Well, obviously the contract was always big. I think same as De Koning. I think rarely the double ruckman work. Gawn was so much better without Grundy. Some teams do it better. I think Jackson does it better when he's by himself. I think De Koning does it better without Pitnet. I think Freo are better off without it, but what do they have to do to get rid of it? Who's going to take up that contract?
Yeah.
Let's say Freo eat half of it. What's aside? Like, North Melbourne have Tristan Jerry. Is it Richmond? But then they don't want to spend money on that because they've got all these young kids that they've got to spend money on.
He's always been linked to Geelong. I think he's from Geelong. I believe he's always been linked to Geelong.
Depends, like Darcy Cameron, depends how old he is. Mason Cox is on the way out. Like, but they don't want to spend money on another ruckman.
It's such a bad contract.
It's interesting.
You just couldn't give it away. But is he another one? If he misses the start of the year and they're 4-0, as I said, they're 9-0 and he hasn't played a game and it's all working, is he the one when it comes to the first final? It's that hard conversation with Nat Fyfe, like, sorry, we don't see you in our best side. Exactly what they did with Brodie Grundy and Max Gawn. Is he that one? Or is he going to be borderline All-Australian gun ruckman? Big Bear just taps it down to the boys all day, which is all he needs to do. So, yeah, we'll let Freo supporters decide that one. But that is the only watch of the year is what happens with Sean Darcy.
That's it. So there's your Freo one. If you're a Freo fan, you'll probably enjoy this pod because
compared to the Essendon one, compared to the Essendon one, how many goals will Jesse Hogan kick on Brendan Cox?
Oh. How many times they play? Two times? Honestly, that's a game where they just send him away. Just send him the buttons.
9.5 goals Jesse Hogan kicks on Brendan Cox in 2 games.
9.5?
9.5 over 2 games.
Over. I would take the over. It's like when Fev plays on Harry O'Brien. He kicked 15 on him in 2 games. Like,
oh, God.
It's just the matchup.
Nah, good pod, Das. Up the Dockers.
Go the Docks.
What are you prepared to lose today? For free and confidential support, call the number on the screen or visit the website.